As an addendum to Don's introduction to ecosystem-based management, I was going to add a few visuals to illustrate what that concept really is about. So recently we helped the United Nations Environment Program put together this little booklet called Taking Steps Toward Marine and Coastal Ecosystem-Based Management, and that's placed into your reading. And first, they wanted to establish the concept that ecosystems include humans, so we drew this diagram that had the offshore coastal activities, fishing, and recreation, and then we put on there a city and a farm and sewage treatment, so we get across that complex multiple uses. And then the concept of the importance of doing ecosystem-based management planning, and the contrasting here is taking that small coastal village up at the top, and then with unplanned development having kind of rampant urban sprawl, and then planning with an ecosystem perspective, still having a human impact, but having it in a way that's amenable to maintaining ecosystem services offshore with the kayaker and seagrass bed, and then you can see the underwater view of that degraded and unproductive seascape versus the healthy and productive seascape. So 5 core elements that are in ecosystem-based management that are in this this small booklet. First of all, the importance of connections, recognizing these connections, and if we start on the left, the habitat destruction, say you mow down some mangroves, salt marshes to put up a subdivision, which increases the sediments and runoff, which impacts both seagrasses and corals. And the lack of seagrass can decrease fisheries, the loss of coral reef can decrease the storm buffering and lose the ecotourism revenue. All of that can contribute to increased coastal erosion, to declining human well-being in the coastal populations, and that cycle is one that involves not just the natural science but the social and economic drivers. Core element 2 is this concept of ecosystem services, the things that ecosystems do that contribute to the human well-being. So some examples here are the mangroves and salt marshes acting as natural filters, trapping the sediments and nutrients, the recreational opportunities based on scenic sea and landscapes, the nursery habitat of estuarine plant communities like mangroves and seagrasses, the drinking water provided by a healthy river system, and then the riparian vegetation trapping erosion and pollutants. And then underneath, the offshore reefs creating sand and protecting the shoreline from severe storms, the hotspots of marine biodiversity that a healthy coral reef provides, sustainable fisheries, providing food, creating jobs, supporting local economies, offshore energy to generate power, and the marine ecosystems acting as large carbon sequestration sinks. And then core element 3 were concept of cumulative impacts. So this little triptych diagram from left to right is one in which you've got a fairly pristine watershed, but fishing. There's a purse seiner and a trawler out there, and a small angler, and then you add, excuse me, to that landscape. In addition to the intensive fishing, you add agriculture with its associated runoff of nutrients, toxins, and sediments, clouding the water and reducing the available fish. And then if you add intensive fishing plus agriculture plus coastal development, there are very few fish left. You've degraded the habitat significantly, and you've ended up with compounding effects that can have unexpected implications. Core element 4 of ecosystem-based management is managing for multiple objectives. So the example here is actually a fairly well-established real-world example off of Boston Harbor. There, just at the tip of Cape Cod, there are these Stellwagen banks, this underwater ridge of productive upwelled water coming from the Labrador Current, and it's a place where humpback whales come every summer to feed, but then they get struck by the ships transiting into and out of Boston Harbor, as well as the fishing that occurs off there, the trawling. So that potential conflict can lead to habitat disturbance as well as direct mortality of the whales. And then this example of accommodating uses to reduce conflict is to have sanctuaries and shipping channels and timing of the shipping to avoid striking the whales and keeping the fishing from destroying the valuable habitat. And then core element 5 is embracing change, learning, and adapting. And so an example here is the present day marine protected area, one of the more one of the devices that conservation people are using a lot of late are creating these marine protected areas to reduce various human impacts on and provide sanctuaries for fish, etc. So in this case, on the left, the marine protected area is allowing for a healthy seagrass habitat, but in the future, if with sea level rise, there's those deeper waters wouldn't be available for seagrass. So in this case, the marine protected area should account for that migration of that habitat to a suitable light availability. So it's looking for that potential that would occur with climate change. And then finally, as a way of contrasting the different kinds of ways of managing and contrasting ecosystem-based management on the right, which is very inclusive of the land and seascape, and contrasting it to previous terms that have been used to manage coastal marine environments. The one that you'll see a lot, and we had in a reading last week, integrated coastal zone management, in which you just focus on that coastal strip of land. Marine spatial planning, covering the marine environment. Watershed management, which extends through the drainage basins. Fisheries management, which takes a piece of the ecosystem, the fisheries part, and manages that. And marine protected areas, which create boundaries. So the concept that the United Nations Environment Program is promoting is this one on the right, which is you take a much more inclusive geographic and conceptual view of ecosystem management. So that just gives you some visualizations to go along with the theory that Don provided earlier. And you can have a look at that booklet, which has the text associated with these graphics. Thanks.